It is time that we depart all together. Yes, on a journey, on a long journey, to discover, understand, explain, engage, and perhaps project the different aspects, the roots, the current state, and the future of high fidelity. We're all going to embark on a quest to seek what is hi-fi. Are you ready? Let's start. Okay, boys and girls, so this is the inception of a new, we could call it series, dedicated to the quest of high fidelity. What is it? What are we talking about? Well, it's very simple. Now, I'm going to go through a few questions that I'm auto-asking me, actually, where I'm going to give mainly my point of view. And then I'm going to pass this on to other people who are going to discuss these same topics, all converging around the concept of high fidelity. What are the problems? What are the misconceptions? What are the good and the bad aspects of it? The misinterpretations? Where are we heading? What is happening today? What was happening before? I think it's very interesting, and obviously we're going to discover why in just a few seconds. So we're starting with me, and then who knows who's going to come after. Let's go. First, basic question. Why? Why are we on the quest for high fidelity? Well, this is probably the reason why I decided to create this series and try to understand what is happening around the high fidelity concept, the high fidelity industry also. It involves music, it involves hi-fi, it involves a lot of people actually. Maybe not fully, but distinct parts all collapse, fall in together, and create something important that I think it is paramount to understand and share. So, why? Well, very simple. Because today, at least this is my perception, and I'm afraid it's the perception of various people, we have a misconception of what is high fidelity. It is a used and abused concept, word even, very, very simply, even the same word is abused, and it's used superficially, erroneously in most cases. And I think this is interesting from somehow, and it also needs somehow correction. So that is why I think it is worth going through all of this. And I hope you're going to stick with me. Okay, very simple. Let's proceed to our second question. Well, I think we need a definition. Not too extensive, because we're going to analyze the concept in different steps, but a basic definition. High fidelity. Faithful fidelity to what? To live music, to how an instrument sounds when it's played, or to music reproduction on high-end equipment, or to recordings, to the recording. Yes, I think that is the correct definition of high fidelity. When we have a medium which contains music, and we try with our gear, any part, software, hardware, to correctly reproduce what was captured during the recording. That is high fidelity. Not live music. That is something different, unfortunately. And a lot of times we make this mistake. I do as well, because you're always thinking of, wait, how does that guitar or drum sound in live? That's very difficult, and it's probably going to take 1,000 years to reproduce truly and correctly. What we are seeking, what has always been the final objective of high fidelity, is that of trying to be as faithful as much as possible to the recording, analog or digital. Let's proceed. to whom mainly this video, these answers that I and future people are going to give in the future videos, directed to, aimed at, addressing what? What purpose? Why? Who? Well, the answer is mainly, I would say, young people, newbies, people that are slowly getting close to high fidelity, which we could simply call quality, first of all, music, I would say, because even the recordings involved, as we has already understood, high fidelity. It is something that takes place already during the recording, but also, and obviously it is more in our hands, the high fidelity of the reproduction of music. That's why also my channel is called Dialogue, the dialogue on analog music reproduction. That is the key concept here. But not only, as I said. So, newbies, young people, or simply people that are starting to buy physical media thanks to the vinyl resurgence and not only the cassette culture, etc. And that they're asking themselves, there is something else besides my phone to reproduce music. There's something else besides a digital file. So they slowly, not everyone has the time, the money, and willing to do something like that. And it's perfectly normal, no problem. But somebody is. And that is why we need to stand here and give a clear message and some guidance, hopefully. This is something fundamental. But I would also like to think that this video, the words that I'm speaking, that others I'm going to do as well, are also aimed to the so-called, well, I call them like this, fast food music consumers. Because that is something, unfortunately, that is a divergement from what is not only a critical listening, but also enjoying music. I did a few months ago, actually a few years ago now, a video on suggestions on how to critically listen to music. Here, a link. And a lot of people hated that because they felt judged. They felt that I was imposing something. No, that's absolutely not the case. But I think it's useful to underline that we cannot consume music. I hate that term, but it's very apt, actually, in this case, in a very dry, fast, unthoughtful way. Just as a background or doing something else, which is okay. Music has to have different kinds of purposes. But hopefully, you're also going to pick up a record or even just play your file, no problem with that, and enjoy it for what it is. Hopefully coming from an album, from a concept that the artist created, not just a single file or a playlist. All these aspects are fundamental, and unfortunately, they have become the normality, the normal being, the normal lifestyle, we could call it, of someone listening to music. They don't listen to music, they turn on music and do something else. And as I said, it is important to indicate that there's also something else and that you may enjoy it even more, because we are talking about one of the most important forms of art that humanity has, music. A form of art which I would say also it's universal. Anyone can understand it if you can hear, obviously. So it is beyond other types of art where you need some instruments to understand it or do it. Also music, sure, of course. But music is also immediate. It fills up your soul with something. And other forms, in my opinion, obviously, does not really happen. And that is why this is so incredible. And in my opinion, again, I want to underline this, takes place especially when we are correctly reproducing that wonderful recording that somebody has done. Then you get closer to the music. You're more engaged, and that's why it's so important. Let's proceed. Next question. What is high fidelity today? Now, this is a very broad and open question, and I'm just going to say a few words. I'm already talking too much. I'm going to try to delineate the current perception of what is high fidelity. Now, first of all, I want to say that clearly I think hi-fi today, because hi-fi means high fidelity, hi-fi is what we have. That's the heritage of the great hi-fi of the past century, which when I was a young kid, when someone said hi-fi, I just thought they meant the boombox or something like that, or your little stereo at home. In fact, for example, in Italy, I've grown up in Italy, I'm mainly Italian, l'hi-fi, lo stereo, those were the elements that were the connection to music and how to reproduce it. That's hi-fi. Then I understood there was something else after that. So we have that direction, mainly connected to the gear, but also we have, sadly, I would say, the concept of the audiophile snobby approach. That unfortunately has got a lot inside hi-fi. And we've done this with our own hands. I mean, people are right. A lot of hi-fi enthusiasts, specialists, are very snobby, are looking you from above and judging you, and also starting from the crazy prices that hi-fi gear has, only because you're calling it already audiophile. That's the big term now. Hi-fi is a little lower, but they're close. So that is something very abused in order to increase prices. Oh, that's audiophile grade something X epsilon. Ugh, terrible. We're killing the industry. We're killing the passion in people, unfortunately. But there is something good at the base of those concepts. And that is why, again, I'm trying to do this video, because there is something to save, to clean, and to represent in a better way. Let's proceed. Okay, very simple. Next question. What is hi-fi for me, for you? You obviously answer in the comments. I'm very interested. If I have to give my opinion, for me, not the perception, for me, what is hi-fi? High fidelity is, you already know, trying to get as close as much to that emotion that you have all of a sudden when you listen to that distinct voice, that distinct instrument or melody, and it feels real and it feels engaging. Whether it's coming from an analog or a digital source, no problem. Just give me emotion, and I'm chasing that, and I'm always going to chase it forever, because that is the key focal point of high fidelity for me. And if I have to get audiophile grade stuff to do it, I'll try to do my best to identify the real steps, improvements to do that, but it is necessary somehow to do a little bit of corrections. You can't just buy a 2-watt mini portable stereo to enjoy the true essence of music and the true conception that the artist created. You can't. And it's also the fun of it. Let's say that. That's why mainly, unfortunately, men are involved in hi-fi, because we like to tweak and fiddle around with stuff. And women are much more concrete, are much more determined and go to the point. They don't want too many knobs. They want one button, click that, and I want to listen to music. Yeah. And maybe they're right. In any case, that's the whole part, the whole wrapping of the hi-fi concept. Let's proceed. Okay, next question. Again, I want to underline this. In my opinion, where is the industry going to? What is the direction? Well, obviously, I'm not part of the industry. I'm not a professional. I'm just very passionate about this aspect, and it is a large portion of my life, as you can imagine. So I have a certain idea, and I just see high fidelity, unfortunately, today going towards mainly sales with stupid high, amazingly high prices. That, unfortunately, is the ultimate goal. And there's so much snake oil that when you try to bring something that seems snake oil, but it isn't, and you're trying to communicate that to someone you somebody is following you, like you guys on this channel, or even my friends, things like that, they always take a step backward. I do too, because unfortunately we have been exposed to so much BS that you don't believe anyone anymore. And that is something getting bigger and bigger. Cables is one of this, absolutely. I think cables do preserve, good quality cables preserve better the signal coming from somewhere, going somewhere else. But there is a lot of, I don't want to say anything bad, but devilish people that just get something that costs 10 and they add 1 or 2 zeros and then they sell it. And a lot of people buy it. So they're creating a market, and that's going to be the standard, the benchmark. Then you have to go up from that. Even a good guy, someone that, I don't know, invented a nice cable and he wants to sell it, and I think and he didn't spend that much to make it. I don't know, like for example, those cables I suggest you in that other video, take a look, here's a link. Those are cables that could easily be sold. They cost around $170 more or less. They could be easily sold for 5 times more, and people would buy them because they're made of OCC copper, they're well done, a decent insulation, etc., etc. So, and if you don't do that, a lot of times people say, I don't think they're that good. Because they brought us all to think that we have to spend more in order to get quality, which in a lot of cases is true, but not always. Not always. So these were just a few examples of what is happening in the hi-fi industry. Obviously, the other side, we're talking about the reproduction, the other side, the recording, the production, is getting better. We're slowly creeping out of the loudness war, I think. Recordings are getting better. They're also high resolution, high quality editions, thanks also to the vinyl resurgence. Don't forget that. Thanks to vinyl, we're also having quality digital productions. So we're getting out of that dark age, we could say, of the last, the beginning of the year 2000s, all the way to 2015, I would say. We're just compression, loudness, limiters, and things like that. And also artistically speaking, a lot of music is all the same, at least that on the mainstream. Obviously, thank God, there's always going to be indie productions that do produce excellent stuff, but we also want some good pop. We also want some good rock, for goodness sake. So maybe in the next years, we're going to also see that coming. I hope so. Let's hope. Well, guys, if you're enjoying my videos and you're enjoying my channel, please consider to subscribe by clicking the black and white logo here below. Also, don't forget to click the notification bell so you'll never miss an episode and you will become a true member of the analog community.